Da 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 da! Deck Tech, the video where we talk about my commander, my deck, and the cards I enjoy drawing. It's Leah, and today we're filming a deck tech for Orah, and this is a black and white commander that my husband bought me randomly on Valentine's Day. He thought I would like it. It's got a lifelink, and if this commander or another cleric dies, I can return a cleric card with equal or less converted. No, it is less, just less converted mana cost from my graveyard back to the battlefield. So the ability says make a cleric tribal deck, and the Valentine's Day part of this said make it something about Saint Valentine. So we're going to hop into the deck tech and see what I actually did. Okay, so we're looking at the deck for Saint Valentine, and I don't know a lot about Valentine's Day. I didn't do any research or anything. I just kind of have some of the most basic common knowledge. So let's assume that I'll have gotten some things wrong, but here is what I do know. It is a holiday celebrated on February 14th by Hallmark and the country at large. There is a event in our history called the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. I don't know anything about that other than the title, and that is a historical event. And there was once a saint called St. Valentine. I assume you have to have some sort of affiliation with the church to have become a saint. So, working with the most basic facts of St. Valentine's, this is what I have built. So overall, functionally it's a cleric tribal deck. There's 34 creatures, I think, in the deck, and most of them are clerics or work with clerics in some way. So we've split this up into some custom categories. So this is the Cleric Graveyard Synergy. So either it works with clerics or it works with the fact that clerics are actually pretty good at bouncing in and out of the graveyard. So make some clue tokens, Cavern of Souls, just so I can cast the clerics. Edgewalker is, if you're making cleric tribal, this is a card you want to hunt down as it reduces by color as opposed to colorless. Etchings of the Chosen is an anthem for a tribal creature type, but it can also grant some indestructible if you really need it. This card flips over to this cult side, and on the cult side it produces a cleric token on the end step, which is really handy for some other effects or if you just need something to sacrifice. Herald's Horn is pretty much a tribal card staple. Mothra in here is just because when they die, it's funny to return them with flying. Ravnos is a fairly powerful anthem, but he acts as a kind of backup commander if I really need that. Relic Vial also causes life loss and life gain, as this deck simply does what it does best. Down a little. There you go. So this one, when an angel or cleric, there's only one other angel, maybe two other angels in the deck, and they're mostly all clerics. Enter the battlefield, it causes life gain, and then once I get enough life, the creatures become larger. This deck doesn't necessarily win through synergy of creatures going in and out of the graveyard. It's more going to win by flooding the field with things that keep coming back and swinging out. So Rotlung, as I'm doing my thing, it's just an extra way to add more creatures onto the battlefield. Skull Clamp, if If you're going to be killing things, it's best not to depend on your opponent to kill them for you, so I might as well draw cards if I have to kill them myself. Soul Warden, as I play the deck, gaining a little life is always helpful. Suture Priest is another one of those really excellent cards for both life gain and life loss. Okay, this demon, if that creature that dies happens to be a cleric, I get to draw a card. I'm fine with the life loss because I have a lot of life gain, but having a little extra card draw is always handy, and since most everything is a cleric, that works out. And then Teysa, just because as things die, I get extra triggers, and there are a lot of death triggers in this deck, so it's not so much about the tokens here as it is about... There are tokens, but not as much about them. So that's the full synergistic part that actually makes the deck run. Now we'll talk about the other half of the deck build, which is the random theme of getting the commander on Valentine's Day. So we have the saintly category, which is cards that I put in the deck to relate to the existence of Saint Valentine being an actual saint. So we've got angels, a god of passage, sounds very saintly. You can't really have a church without a god, I think. Maybe an idea to explore in some future random thinking. Bastion of Remembrance sounds like something a church would do. In this case, it appears to be a fortress, but it does sound very much like something a church could do too. A bishop, sure, churches need bishops, right? It's another angel, priest, a chapel, a selfless spirit. If I was to imagine or make up things about Saint Valentine, I imagine he might be selfless. I could be really wrong on that, but I'm going to pretend that I'm right. Sanctum, another temple. That's our saintly category. And then for the historical event of St. Valentine's Massacre, so these are our massacre cards. Sign in Blood, Merciless Eviction, Massacre Worm, Massacre Girl, Kaya's Wrath, and Grave Pack. Those all sound like a lot of things are going to die. They seem very massacre-y to me. And then our third category, the Holiday of the Hallmark. So we have cards in this category are really in this category by the words that you can find in their name. So we have Dreams Together Forever, we have a ring in here, Generosity, Generous Gift, and Life's Bond. Those are definitely the items usually celebrated around Valentine's Day on February 14th. So those cards all made sense to add to the mushy holiday category. The rest of the deck is fairly straightforward support for Cleric Tribal going on. We have a bunch of other creatures. Most of them are clerics. We'll look at some of those. None of them are particularly exciting. Just the supporting, call them the supporting cast. See, basic artifacts, a couple of sorceries. I just opened this Grim Tutor, so I thought I'd throw it in this deck. A few instants. There is a lot of land in this deck, but the vast majority of the land is just basic land, so I cut that off. We're gonna, though, cut and look at the statistics of this deck, try adding a slightly new section to these deck techs. Here's our statistics of our deck, so I can see that the mana curve and kind of where things fall on the colors, and then I can also see we've got 39 land in the deck, which a lot of people would probably say is really high, but I prefer to draw land than to be mana screwed, so that's the direction I like to lean. And 35 creatures in the deck overall. Since we are a tribal deck, we have to heavily support that. And then pretty light on everything else that we can see in the deck. So our highest is 3 here. We can see exactly what kind of combinations we've got. Overall, this feels like a pretty nice moniker for a deck. The couple times I've played this deck, it's worked out pretty good. There's a lot of cards in this deck that were based on either Valentine's Day on the day that I got them as a gift, and a couple other cards in the pile that are just cards that I get happy to show off during gameplay. So to start with the commander itself. So when I got this commander, I put it in a perfect fit and then drew on it with a marker to make it memorable of the occasion. So I got a staff going on here with a heart. There was a regular staff back there, and then I kind of watermarked the corner for the occasion with silver and pink, and I liked how it turned out. So this is the Doom Foretold I got. I don't know how well you can see. It's nice. I got a little bit of a shine on it. Now, I do have a collection of Eldraine cards. I'm trying to make a complete set of Eldraine, so upgrading them to foil is always handy. Okay, this card is in the deck because of this guy's facial grooming. I mean, check out that stash. That's pretty sweet. He's a useful card too. I don't think he was ever errated into a cleric or anything. I think he's still an avatar, but, you know, green skin, super mustache, gonna play him. Okay, this Path to Exile, I was lucky to get in a F&M event. I really like how rainbow colored it is. At least it's not too hard to remember what Path of Exile does, so I feel okay playing it. I don't have to look it up all that often to remember. Are they supposed to gain the life, or are they supposed to fetch the land? I know there's one other. Okay, Weathered Wayfinder is just a card I really like, and I'm deciding to highlight it here. It's got super odd looking art, but you can search your library for any land card. Doesn't have to be a basic and doesn't have to be a plain, so as long as an opponent has more land. But an opponent having one more basic is nothing compared to the kind of lands you could fetch out with this. Okay. Sign in Blood here. This is one of the player rewards cards that they were mailing out to people in 2009, 2010 era. If you were playing in F&Ms, you could have received some of these in the mail just for participation. They had a great selection of cards in this program, and I'm happy to have one of these. When I was first looking at building a pauper deck, I actually wanted to build a tribal cleric pauper deck in black and white, and this is one of the bizarre cards that I found that had been printed in as a common for way back in the day, and this one was never put on MTGO, so it's not considered in the larger amount of meta, and this was before the formats were kind of cleaned up and combined and made official when I was looking at this, so I thought I had discovered this kind of secret tech, even though it's not. I thought this was a pretty cool card because it has a stacks-like effect. You can use it as a blocker all day long, and if your opponent never has open mana, it will just keep regenerating. Now, that's not much of a stacks, but this is Pauper, and the options were very limited. So I got a playset of these, and never really put that deck together, so it made its way over into this deck, and I'm still happy with it. Alright, so I bought a box of Ikoria, and the only card I really wanted was Mothra. And then my box topper happened to be Mothra, and it was all shiny and awesome, and I cannot remember anything else that I got out of that box. I know we opened the whole thing, and I was just so stoked that for once I had opened a card that I really wanted to open. I'm not, like, I don't dislike Godzilla or anything, but I wouldn't say I'm a fan either. I just kind of know, I'm aware of Mothra's existence, and I know who Godzilla is. So I just thought it was cool that I could have a Mothra card. Okay, this next section here of these swamps that we're going to go through, these are the 11 swamps, and my husband arranged them into the shape of a little heart on the table and then drug me over to surprise me that he had gone card shopping for me, so I was delighted. And these are all foil. It doesn't look like it's going to show up super well on camera, but by not showing up super well, you can also see them pretty well. So if you ever get to play cards against me, you can see their shininess when I play them. In order to make the deck feel balanced, I then used all foil planes to accompany the collection of all foil swamps. So I thought this was a really great selection of artwork to get to play. I don't know if I have a particular favorite. He did try to find me sets that I enjoy collecting so I could upgrade. I like the purple on this one. Alright. Those are all the cards I get really excited to play in this deck.